Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now, for those of you who have watched my channel and subscribed, thank you very much first of all, I appreciate that. But you'll also know that I've done videos on my background, one, sorry, did one video, a partial waking up, coming out kind of video. I didn't show my face at all in that video. As you'll recall, I was driving and I was living in Tennessee at the time. So what I wanted to do today was I wanted to officially, excuse me, give you my full story. I haven't done that yet, and I think it's about time I do that. Hang on just one moment, I need to grab a drink of water. Okay, sorry about that. I meant to grab it before I started shooting and I forgot. Just got home from work, so please bear with me, y'all. Okay, well, anyways, I went ahead and been thinking about this for a long time. I did it. I made my last video. It was about, close to a year ago. And I don't think I did it justice. So I wanted to do my story a little justice here. And I hope that I can inspire others to come out with their stories and to also help others, because coming out of this religion is just, it really messes with you. It messes with people's families. It even messes with their financial situations. Luckily, it didn't for me. So let me start off here from my birth. And you're like, oh, wow, that's a long way back. Because, yes, I was born in. I am 37 years old as of this making of this video. And I was born in Jehovah's Witness. And back in 2018 was when I finally woke up and left. Starting from my birth, I was an emergency cesarean section. I had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and the doctors had to cut me out of my mom real quick. When I got out of the womb, they told my mother, if your son doesn't get a blood transfusion, he's gonna die. So here I am, I'm born, haven't even lived a day yet, and my parents have to face the blood issue with me immediately. Now, let's take into account, this was back in 1982. This also was a period of time before any of the AIDS hysteria was out or popular. So nobody knew about it at this point in time. So a blood transfusion, unbeknownst to my parents, obviously, and the general community that wasn't in the medical or did not know what the entire risks would be anyways. So my parents, obviously being witnesses and knowing their witnesses' stance on blood, refused it. They were almost heralded before a judge to make a decision on this. The doctors literally gave me a day, and if I didn't start looking better within a day, then they were going to take it before a judge and get them to overturn my parents' decision. Luckily, see the result, I'm still here. I didn't die, so that's a good thing, I think. So obviously I started looking better by the following day. They didn't have to give me a blood transfusion, and life went on. Now, talking to my parents later in life, they told me that because of this happening in their lives, that they now were more cemented in the fact that, yes, this was the truth. We refused a blood transfusion. It worked out. You know, our son is alive. That just kind of dug their feet in a little bit deeper to the truth. So, yeah, that was a rough start. Now, I do jokingly tell my parents, and this is just a side note, my own quirky sense of humor. I said, well, you know why I wrapped the umbilical cord around my neck? I said, because I knew who my parents were going to be, and I was trying to off myself before I ever let it happen. But all kidding aside, they know I've said that. I told them that. It's just a joke. So, anyways. So, okay. Now, that was probably the most eventful thing, I guess you could say. Well, we'll get on with the story here. So now, we're going to move on up to... I made a little outline here, so I'm going to kind of follow what I wrote, but through ages 5 to 10 roughly, because I don't remember anything before that really. I remember being in a Kingdom Hall, didn't have a lot of friends, wasn't very popular in school, you know, awkward JW kid growing up, don't do birthdays, don't do holidays. I will recall one event though, back in that Kingdom Hall from when I was a child, that was significant. And it was significant because to this day it still sticks out in my mind. And I didn't realize it at the time because obviously I was raised in this. And so these things are normalized. They shouldn't be normalized, obviously. So what that event was is there was a brother who got disfellowshipped. Big surprise, right? Oh, disfellowship. Now, I was probably 5, 6 years old, and I remember going up to him to try to talk to him, because that's how I was. I was a very outgoing kid. And I remember being told not to talk to him because he's disfellowshipped. And I'm like, of course, as a kid, I'm like, what does that matter? Why can't I talk to him? Of course, being the good little obedient kid I didn't talk to him because that's what I was told to do. Also, to kind of let you in on a little bit of how I was being outgoing, I don't remember this event, but when I got a little older, this couple that was in my hall at the time told me this story that when I first met them, I went up and sat on and asked, well, before I sat on her lap, I said, do you love Jehovah? And she was like, yes. And then I went and sat on her lap. And I didn't even know her. So, but at that time, of course, you know, was in my hall for a long time, so I got to know them. And they were friends with my grandparents and all that. So, anyways, little quirky stories. Oh, while I'm talking about stories, I know I'm getting a little sidetracked, but it's all good for the humor and context of my life. Again, I don't remember this story. These are stories that are told to me later. So my parents had just told me about the anointed and what that meant. And they told me that after I learned about that from them, I went up to this sister in our hall who was of the anointed. And I went up to her and I said, I can't wait till you die. Oh, man. Her daughter freaked out, took my dad in the back room, gave him up one side and down the other. You know, your son shouldn't be talking to my mom that way, yada, yada, yada. Well, truth be had, the sister that I said that to understood exactly what I meant, and she thought it was funny, and no harm, no foul. But anyways, you know, that was, I thought that was funny. Anyways, let's move on now. I'm going to ages 10 to 15. I'm trying to give a fairly quick synopsis of my childhood. I was a pretty good witness kid. I did some things in middle school that I shouldn't have done, but I figured, well, because I wasn't baptized yet, that it was okay. I could get away with it kind of thing. And then after I get baptized, no harm, no foul. So I wasn't, again, still wasn't popular in school. And we had moved, let's see, I think it was 94. So I would have been about 12 years old then. So we had moved from one hall to another. Went to a middle school, obviously, by where I was at that time. And before, was it 94 that he moved in? I'm trying to remember. Okay, so another little backstory here. There was this brother in our hall that was in a wheelchair. He had multiple sclerosis, and he was a paraplegic. At the time we met him, his mother was taking care of him. Well, his mother passed away, and then his brother started taking care of him. Now, I know I have mentioned to some of my friends, that I've made more recently, and you'll all know who I'm talking about if you watch this, that I have a thing where I'm trying to get over about homosexuals, but this is where it stems from, I think, because this brother's brother, he was a homosexual. He had his boyfriends. Well, they lived in two separate houses down the street from each other at this time when I first met him. And I used to go over to his house every week. We had book study in his house, and then I befriended him, and I'd go visit him every week after school. And we'd play board games, and we'd go out to eat. We'd go to wherever we could go to that was within walking distance of his house. Well, long story short on this guy, he got an allowance from his brother every month because he got multiple sclerosis when he was in the Marines. And so therefore he got a government stipend every month for a caretaker to take care of him and to cover his living expenses. Well, he was getting like $150 a month from his brother for an allowance. Okay. Guy, he doesn't have to worry about anything really, of course his medical condition, I feel bad for him on that. But he had all his needs taken care of, and he got to do a lot of things he wanted. Well, one month, his brother only gave him $40 for the whole month. Well, at that point, my parents went up to him and said, "Hey, look, something's not right here. Can we start looking into it?" And he said yes. Well, long story short on that, his brother was taking money from him, and he was spending it on elaborate vacations for him and his boyfriends. They would go first class, all expenses paid, off what he was making, not off what his brother was doing. His brother didn't have to work because of him. That's how good of a stipend he got. Well, he moved in with us in 94, and we went through a court battle with his brother, and his brother actually challenged his competency. And if anybody knows anything about, especially here in America, the court systems, if you challenge somebody's competency and you win against them, they cannot make their own decisions anymore. Excuse me. They will not be able to decide what religion they are. They can't vote. They can't do anything. Excuse me. So really, his entire ability to make choices was on the line. We won. He promised never to contact his brother again. And so my parents offered him to move in with us, and we took care of him for a very long time. He passed away in 2010. So we had him for over 15 years. And over the years, he progressively became a quadriplegic and then finally completely bedridden the last couple of years. A great guy. He really was a great guy. I mean, our family started doing better financially because my parents never had a lot until him. So he really was, in a lot of ways, he was a blessing to our family. He really helped us do a lot of things that we couldn't have otherwise done. So, anyways, let me go move on with my story more but I mean, he was a big part of, my teenage years and until I grew up and got married. Now, I will tell you, I got baptized at the ripe old age of 13 years old, June 22nd, 1996. Yes, I know, it's sad that I remember that. But also, June 22nd, 2000 happened to be the date I also graduated high school. But I also homeschooled for high school, which I'll get into that in a minute. So that was me moving up in the organization. And I just happened to be, like Lloyd Evans likes to say, have the right plumbing to do the jobs in the hall. I always loved doing the sound. I loved running microphones. I loved doing the soundboard. Got good at all of that, where I always challenged myself to have flawless meetings where, I didn't miss a volume turning up for the comment or, any things like that, because that's how I was. I enjoyed that. So, anyways, got through the 8th grade. I wanted to homeschool because I didn't like the kids at school. Wasn't popular. Kids wanted to fight me. I was in a school where I could skirt around that, and I actually never got into a fight per se, but a couple of altercations that, I didn't have to really worry about. Nothing really happened. No fists were, well, one time a fist flew, but the kid hit me in the back of the head and his hand swelled up and my head was okay. I guess I'm just that hard-headed. That's just how it is in my family. We're hard-headed. So anyways, let's move on from ages 15 to 20. I had quite a bit happen in these years, especially between the ages of 17 to 20. Now, I started pioneering at age 17, and back at that time, that was my life goal, was to pioneer. I was like, okay, I'm a pioneer. I want to do this the rest of my life and rely on Jehovah. That was my thing. Well, in the year 2000, I also went to Pioneer Service School. I made ministerial servant by the age of 19. Also in the year 2000, I got to go to Las Vegas, Sin City, as a pioneer. Never went to Bethel. My parents never took me to Bethel as a kid. Never did that. I went to Vegas, but I never went to Bethel. So props to my parents for being cool like that. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I love you. So age 19, I was a ministerial servant. I was living high on the hog, man. I'm young. I'm full of energy. Ministerial servant, pioneer. Well, then my parents encouraged me to go to college. Now, obviously that's not a bad thing. But looking, when I was in it at the time, I was like, I don't want to go to college. I want to pioneer, and I'll just rely on Jehovah, and I'll find something, live part-time, pioneer, and that whole bunch of crap. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably thinking, God, you were an idiot. Yeah, I was. I didn't know better. I was indoctrinated. What can I say? So I'm doing all this then in college. So I pick a course, something I picked it quick to kind of get my parents off my back. And if my parents ever listen to this video, I did. Because obviously you see where that college degree's got me. I'm a welder. I don't do computer networking, which is what I went to school for. But that's besides the point. So I met a girl one day at an assembly. This girl happened to be in Pioneer School with me. And at that assembly, we started hitting it off. I'm about 20 years old at this point. And so we started dating. She was in one hall that was about 45 minutes away from where I lived. But where my school was like halfway in between her and where I lived. And so I would go to school, then I'd go to her place afterwards and see her just about every day. I actually worked, her parents had a company, I worked for them too, the whole 9 yards. And things progressed fast, as they usually do with any witness-kid relationship. And we started fooling around. Now, we didn't go all the way. Her and I did not go all the way. But we did some stuff. I'll let your imaginations do the work on that one. But what happened was, after that, she started getting really cold-shouldered to me. And so for months, I'm racking my brain out. I'm like, what's the problem? What's going on? What can we do to fix it? Nothing. And we had even gotten engaged. And of course, you all know, as in the witness world, if you're engaged, you're considered married without the benefits. So how are you married? So why do they get you in trouble for that? Okay, I won't go into that, but you get my drift. I couldn't stand that. I do not do cold shoulders. I'm like, look, I love you, but I can't do this. I'm breaking it off. So I broke it off with her. I didn't say anything about what we had done till one day I was at the aquarium with my family. I got a call from her dad. If you don't tell the elders what you did, I'm going to call them and tell them for you. Okay, I'll call. So I did. And I got public reproof. Which, when you look back at that, nobody knew what we were doing. Oh, I'm sure you could figure it out, that we had done something. But it wasn't like I was going around making other people do it or whatever. Removed as a ministerial servant. That was the last time I was a ministerial servant. So I was a ministerial servant for about 2 years maybe. So anyway, at this point in my life, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to get back in good graces, go to meetings, go out in service. I'm not going to look for no girlfriend. At this time, too, my parents were moving away, and I didn't want to move with them, so I stayed behind. I was not looking for a girlfriend, y'all. Not at all. She just happened to come my way, and she is my wife to this day. So anyway, I met her, and through a friend from her hall, because we also weren't in the same hall, and then he started inviting me out. She saw me, and she told her best friend at the time to tell her boyfriend to invite me everywhere they went. So I'm getting invited to places. I'm like, hey, this is cool. I'm making some new friends. I'm out on my own. I'm 20 years old, 21. Yeah, I was 21. And I'm like, hey, this is cool. And then, this chick is like all over me, and she was cute. And I was like, yeah, I can do this. I asked her to dance with me at a coffee shop one night that had a live band. Our first song we ever danced to together was Oye, ¿Cómo va? No, I'm not going to sing it. So anyways, we started dating. Things started getting serious with her and me. Really serious. Really, really serious. If you know what I mean. Yeah, we did stuff we weren't supposed to do. Again, me. I guess that was my my temptation. Oh well. But we dated, and in June of '04, I had actually moved back with my parents by this time, and my dad had asked me. Of course, my parents were in at the time, at this time, and he was an elder. And my dad asked me, "Is there anything you're doing you shouldn't be doing?" I don't know if that was the exact question, but you catch my drift. Yeah, Dad, we've done the deed. Well, he said, "Well, you're going to have to go to the elders." And, okay, here we go again. I called her up. I told her what I did. And I said, and things were still going great for us. I mean, we were engaged already by this time. We had gotten engaged in May of that year. And I called her up. I was distraught. I was real, I was like, my dad asked me. I couldn't say no. I couldn't lie to him. Do you still love me? Do you still want to go through this? Because I was worried about that. And she was like, yeah, we're good. Let's just go get married. So we eloped. July 3rd, 2004 was the day we got married. So still with her 15 years later. So being we got married, of course, not knowing how the judicial system and the congregation worked back then, like I do now after having read the Elder's Manual, I got public reproof again, and so did she. So anyway, moving on, back, let's go to, after we got married, a couple years later, we had our first daughter. Having been married to my wife this entire time, we were never regular in meetings or service again. From the time we got married to the time we left. So we went more at the beginning, but as time went on, it got less and less. But that's because she was ready to leave years ago. She could, if I would have said it when we first got married, screw this religion, let's go, she would have gone. I was indoctrinated. I believed it. I kept us in for the whole time. So anyway, by the time we had our second child, I was working at a hospital. I wasn't making a whole lot of money at this point. And I knew I needed to do something to make a living for my family. So that's the point when I decided to go to trade school and become a welder. Well, at that point, I was working full-time job during the day. I'd get up at 6 a.m, go to work, get off at 4:30 every day, drive an hour and a half to go to welding school, which welding school isn't sitting in a class reading books. Welding school is in a lab welding, learning how to weld. Okay? So it was pretty intense. Wouldn't get home till midnight every night, and then I'd do it again every day for 8 months. So yeah, it was tough. Those 8 months were tough. So we had lived in North Florida at that time. Well, we moved back down to just north of Tampa, where we were from after I finished welding school, because I got a job at the shipyard down in Tampa. I'm working down there, and this is the part of my life I'm still mentally fully indoctrinated. Mentally. Even though we're not regular at meetings or service, we still went. But I still believed it was the truth. Well, this is where my first doubt came from. I had 2 kids at this time already. And I'm not sure. I think it was either the very end of 2008 or near the end of 2009 when this happened. I don't remember exactly when, but I do remember this trigger in my head. I was at work, and I wasn't the kind of person at work to tell everybody, hey, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Here, you should read this magazine. I didn't do that. I was at work for a reason, to work, not to preach to people. I never did that. So I was talking with a guy at work, and he's like, so what are you doing for Christmas this year? I go, I'm not doing anything. I don't celebrate Christmas, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, He goes, you don't celebrate Christmas? Why not? It's for the kids. As weird as that sounds, that was the first time I doubted anything over that question right there. And I started thinking, what's so bad about it? Why can't I give my kids gifts? Oh, because of some old customs that they want to throw upon you and try to give you the old candy in the gutter analogy thing. So yeah, that was my first doubt. Time passed on. So we're 09. So 2009 to 10 really started flooding in with more. I discovered, 1914 was wrong, therefore 607 is completely wrong. And I learned a whole bunch of other things. But yet I still was holding on to the belief that this was the truth. Still was. I couldn't let it go. I had been laid off a lot of times working in Florida. A lot. I lost a house because of it. I had a beautiful house down there, bought it brand new, and because I kept getting laid off as a welder, I lost it. Well, when I was working at one of the last shipyards I worked at in Florida, I was working with this guy, and he had mentioned the shipyard up here in Virginia, which is where I work now, by the way, in case anybody was curious. He's like, man, they got big shipyards up there. They always got work. You don't got to worry about being laid off up there. I'm like, let me look into it. I got on the internet and I looked it up, and I saw this shipyard. They build Navy ships. They build aircraft carriers and submarines. As a witness, well, I can't really justify that. But then I started looking deeper into the shipyard, and I'm like, okay, I did my research here. Yeah, I got this. They do commercial work too. I'm like, oh, cool, they do commercial work. There's going to be my in. I'll go get the job. Don't matter where they put me at first. I'll try to work my way into the commercial side. Yeah, no problem. I got the job. We moved up here in 2013. And actually in 2013, I was this close to walking away back then. Completely. My wife was ready. Something held me back. I don't know what it was. I guess it's that cult indoctrination. It's that, this is the truth. There's still something good about it. There's still something right about it in your head. And so it's screwing with your mind. It's just making you go, ugh. And I didn't leave. We ended up going to a congregation up here. Actually, 2 different congregations when we were up here the first time. And I'll get to that in a minute. The first congregation I got to, and these brothers pulled me back to the back room at one meeting, and they said, Brother Winter, look, you got to get rid of that job. Basically, is what they said. You can't be working there. Now, not till after I started working here, honestly, I found out that they don't do commercial work. So, bet you all saw that coming. So even though I was going to just do the commercial work like I thought, sorry, my kid is leaving for school. And I heard the door slamming, sorry. So even though I thought they did commercial work, they don't. They used to, actually. They did for a little time, I guess, when things got slow to kind of keep work in the yard. They don't do that anymore. So these brothers basically took me in the back room. They told me I couldn't work there anymore, and that if I was working there when Armageddon came, I was going to be destroyed at Armageddon because I worked there. Now here I am. I'm a man with a wife and 2 kids at this point, trying to support them. I've been laid off more than I care to have ever gone through in my life. I finally got a steady job, and here I am being told by these idiots that I got to give up my job. I'm not the type to back down. I went home and I started doing research. I think it was somewhere, I don't remember where the article was. I looked it up back then. This is back in like 2014-ish now. An article in like 60s, I think it was, in the Watchtower. Says Jehovah is selective in his destruction, and if your heart is in the right condition, it doesn't matter where you're at, you'll survive Armageddon. So I took that article. I'm like, oh, good, I found this, I can justify myself here a little bit longer, maybe look for some work. I never did. Never looked for another job. Oh, wait, I did. I did look for another job, but I didn't pursue anything hard and heavy because, quite frankly, I liked where I was at. And so I went back to them with that article. Brothers, of course not smiling like I am now, but this is what I found on the Watchtower here. This is what the literature says, that Jehovah is selective in his destruction, and if I'm in the right heart condition, which I believe I am, I shouldn't have to worry about Armageddon, but yeah, I'll keep working it. They don't like that. Elders do not like it when you come back at them with their own game, information for their own literature. Obviously, I didn't realize it back then. Now that I've watched a bunch of these apostate trials on YouTube, yeah, they really don't like when you bring. Oh yeah, this is another important part too. I got a brother, and he had faded for a long time. He was out for a long time, like good 10 years. Well, he started coming back in about 2014, and 2014 I started to be like, you know what, I'm gonna start doing better in my own life as far as being a witness. And so we would talk, and at this point also, I forgot to mention this, at this point my parents had already fully left. They left in 2010, totally left, and were apostates even at that point. Like full-blown apostates, not like they don't do YouTube or anything like that, but they were on forums online and stuff. And I knew about that. Well, so I started getting back together with my brother, and he decided to write a letter to mom and dad. Basically a crap letter is what we called it, and saying all the things that he felt about them. I wonder if I have it right here. If I do, I'll share what it says. Oh, I do. And it really was quite a thing. I even joined in doing one with him as well, where I blamed mom and dad for a lot of things, and it was just it was really messed up. No, I don't think I'm gonna actually read this letter. You know what? I'm gonna do another video on that. Yeah, I had it right here. I'm gonna do another video on that. Sorry, I'm brainstorming while I'm filming this. But yeah, I'll do another video on that. These letters. I think I have mine somewhere. If I do, I'll read that for you too, if I can find mine. And then if I can find it, I'll read the letter that I got replied back from my parents. So anyways, we wrote these letters to our parents. This was basically us saying, from this point on, unless you guys come back and become full-fledged Jehovah's Witnesses again, we're going to shun you. I'm not mincing words here. That's basically what our letters said. We didn't say shun in the letters, but that's what our letters said. Well, so my brother and I, kind of like getting closer now. He's 5 years older than me. And I'm like, okay, we're making a stand for Jehovah. We're against our parents. You know, we're doing the right thing here. Well, let me tell you something. This is not something that feels right on any level. No level of humanity does it feel right to shun your own parents. I felt bad about it. I thought about them often. I worried about them. You know, I justified it in my head because of the cult indoctrination. And that's the only reason why I was able to continue doing it till last year, 2018, when I finally fully woke up. We'll get to that in a minute. So, in 2015 to 16, my in-laws started building their retirement home in Tennessee. And they're full-fledged witnesses. My father-in-law is an elder. My mother-in-law is a pioneer. Sad thing with her, she is a breast cancer survivor, which is, I'm glad she survived. She's still a pioneer. Went through all the chemo, all that, you know, double mastectomy, reconstruction, the whole 9 yards. So part of my crawling back to the organization in 2016, they asked my wife and I to move over to Tennessee with them. And I said, you know what? We should do that. My wife and I talked about it. Yeah, we'll do that so the kids can have at least some grandparents and some family around, because we didn't have any. My parents at this point, they lived in New York. My in-laws were in Florida. So I figured if I moved to Tennessee with my in-laws, then we'd have some family together. Well, we did. In 2017, we moved. Then, I'm sorry. I forgot one thing. In 2015, we had our third child. So that's when our third child came around. So now we moved to Tennessee with them. And Tennessee was a rough start. My job situation wasn't great at first. Finally found something that worked out for me okay. And I could have still been there to this day. I actually liked that job. It was a fun place to work. You know, no problems whatsoever. For a small place, it was great. Well, working at this small place, I started really, really getting my doubts coming back strong again. I was on my phone and this time I was looking at a lot of videos on car repair and stuff. I had a lot of car issues at the time. I had a transmission go, then I had an engine go a couple weeks later, and I sunk more money into this stupid car than I ever should have. I'll never do that again. Anyways, but on my YouTube feed started coming, I don't know why. I guess if I had to make a guess about this, it would be The when you talk about anything, your phone picks it up and advertisers hear it and stuff like that pops up. I think that's the only reason. About April or May of last year, on my YouTube feed, on my home page, and I'm just looking at this on my phone, I see what videos about Jehovah's Witnesses start to pop up. And I'll just ignore those. Let me find a car video that I want to watch. I don't need to watch that. They kept popping up. So, me being who I am, I'm like, nobody's around. I got curious. I started watching just a little bit at first. Not a whole lot. You know, that whole, ooh, I did something bad, I better stop. You know, all you mentally diseased, demon-possessed apostates videos. The first channel I remember watching is John Cedar's channel. He was the first full video I watched. And I'm like, you know what? This dude makes sense. He's not speaking hatefully. He's not angry. You know, he's on point about all these things. You know, when he says he's the next witness, I believe it because he talks the talk. I started watching more of his videos, and then I discovered, I forget who I discovered next in order, but basically the big three for me was Lloyd Evans, John Cedars, Susan Gaskin, and Mike and Kim. And if any of you all ever watch this, guys, thank you very much for everything you've done. You helped me out tremendously. You got me and my family out of that destructive cult. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I don't care what people think about Lloyd Evans. The dude helped me. And Susan Gaskin is such a sweetheart too. Love her to death. Love her videos. I know she's taking a break. I know she has health issues. So shout out to you, Susan. And for Kim and Mikey, also a big shout out to you guys. Because even though Mikey gets very irate, I still love him. Still love you, man. You guys are awesome. So thank you for everything y'all have done. So now I'm watching full-on videos. I'm watching all the JW broadcast rebuttals. I'm watching all his other videos he has, Watchtower and Focus, all those videos. Then came the icing on the cake. And this is what finally snapped me out of my indoctrination. The Australian Royal Commission. And I know, like a lot of you, this is what did it for me. And at first, I only saw parts of the days. And then I finally saw the Jeffrey Jackson testimony. Oh my God. Becky, look at that. But no, I'm not going to sing that song. No, but that testimony that was it. I was done. When he got up there and he started lying about things that every witness knows. Also, especially for me, what I remember him especially lying about, the first time I watched it, of course I watched it again, was when he was given a scenario about somebody who had left being a witness and was celebrating Christmas. They're not disfellowship. They're not disassociated. Do you still shun that person even though you know they're celebrating Christmas? And he said no. Not only that, but the whole deflecting around the questions the whole time, not only from Jeffrey Jackson, but from Vincent Toole, the other guy, I can't remember his name right now, but if you've seen it, you know who I mean. All the other elders and service department Bethel people that were questioned were all like that. They were all trying to deflect every question they can, skirt around it, not answer it directly, even though they were asked very direct questions, because Angus Stewart did his homework on these guys. But like I said, Jeffrey Jackson was saying that. I'm like, you got a governing body member who's supposed to be your spiritual leader for 8 million witnesses around the world lying. I'm done. I am done. From that point forward, it was, how the hell am I going to get out of here? Well, my wife didn't know I was doing this at the time. And I had mentioned earlier in the video that she would have left a long time ago had it not been for me. However, I still was worried. And I've told her this too. She's like, why were you worried? I was worried about her because we were living in Tennessee near her parents. Finally, she was getting some sense of closeness to her parents. We were there all the time at their house, having dinners, doing cookouts, you know. It was good. Well, that's why I was worried. Because I knew how that was going to affect her relationship and what it meant, not only for her, but for her kids as well. You know, right now, my daughter's 12. She's about to turn 13 next week. My middle son is 10, and my baby boy is 3. I knew what this was going to mean for them. I also am planning another video on interviewing with my daughter, and we'll get into how that initial coming out with the news affected her and where she's at today. But getting back to the story, so we went to the convention last year. Be courageous. That's what it was. Be courageous. Oh my God, it was awful. I'm sitting there and they're fear-mongering and guilt-tripping the whole time. I'm just like, I was fully awake at this point. And I'm just like, oh, I can't stand this. We had to sit through 3 days of this crap. And then they end it with that god-awful song. Had no originality in lyrics. It was just, and you know, you feel yourself welling up with emotion because of the indoctrination, but at the same time your brain is like splitting apart and you're going, ah, because you know the truth about the truth now, and you're fighting the indoctrination you've had your whole life, and you're just getting caught up in it. I couldn't wait to get out of that building. A couple weeks later, we were getting ready to go to my in-laws' congregation for a meeting. My wife was working night shift at the time at Amazon, and I remember she came home and she was getting ready, and she asked me point blank at that point, she said, do you believe it anymore? Because she had known something was going on, because I was trying to hint around the fact for a while, but you know, my wife, she's a smart woman. I don't know why she married me, but she's a smart woman. At that point, then and there, I'm like, I ain't skirting around this with her no more. I said, nope, I don't believe it anymore. I'm done. And she just goes, okay. I was like, what? Come again? Hello? Earth to James? Okay. I said, okay. After that meeting, we went to her parents' house. Of course, she was very distraught about it because obviously what it means with her parents. We were at her parents' house and she was very distraught. This was pretty much the last time I ever talked with her dad. Her dad had me, I was outside with her dad, just him and me, and he asked me if everything was okay. I'm like, yeah, everything's fine, trying to kind of blow him off because this was all going on. And I said, so I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to say nothing to him. Not ready yet because we were just at that point. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to fade. I didn't know if I wanted to disassociate. I didn't know at that point yet. So I blew him off. And then the next day he messaged my wife and she told him some stuff. And since that meeting, and that meeting was in August of last year, we have not been to a meeting. We have not been out in service. And we planned our escape. And by planning our escape, I went online and I applied to get my job back in Virginia, I got back pretty easily. She applied and she got not her old job back here, but what she does. She's a teacher. She got a teaching job again like that. So we talked about it. We looked up letters of disassociation. We started making new friends. Now, we were making new friends in Tennessee at the time, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that sounds so wrong. Not unfortunately that we were making friends. Unfortunately that they live in Tennessee, okay? Because we knew we were moving back to Virginia and we're about 9-hour drive, 8-9 hour drive from them. So, but we found a meetup group and we made some extra Jehovah's Witness friends. We went to meetups there with them. It was great. I surprised my wife with her first birthday party last year and she had no idea it was coming. We planned it to celebrate it together. But when we got this meetup group, she showed it to me that week of her birthday. Her birthday was like Thursday that week. And we had planned to meet that meetup group for the first time that Saturday. And I got on the group with them. I messaged the organizer of the group. I'm like, look, my birthday's coming up. Can we do something to surprise her? And he was like, yes. So we did. And we celebrated and I got her and it was great. So anyways, we eventually decided to fade. That's it. We did not disassociate. Reason why? Because of her parents. So that's where I stand. I am faded. I am not disfellowshipped. I am not disassociated. We simply just left. I got my job back. She got her job back. We moved back to Virginia. Life is great over here. We've had some big problems. We've overcome those problems. We have never been happier in our lives. We can be free. We make some new friends. Gosh, now I'm gonna plug this in here at the end of this video. I am one of the moderators in Watching Watchtower, and it is just a fantastic group to be a part of. I love everybody in there. Wow, it's so great. So anyways, that is my complete story. And it's taken me a long time to do this. I've been planning it out for a long time. I don't think I missed anything. There's a lot of details, obviously, I wasn't going to go totally into, but yeah, that's me, y'all. Thank you for listening. Near this hour-long video. I've never made a video of me just talking for an hour, so thank you for dealing with that. Hope you all enjoyed it. Please like if you find this video helpful, and subscribe, and hit the little bell icon if you think this videos and other videos can be useful to you, feel free to share it. I'm just trying to get my story out there and trying to help add my voice to this XJW community, because I, like a lot of people, am ready to see this organization go down, especially for their deplorable practices on child sexual abuse. Anyways, that's all I'm going to do today. I've got to get my butt to bed. I work night shift, and it's the morning time right now when I'm shooting this. So again, thank you everybody, and I will be seeing you later.